welcome to Arbitral Insights, a podcast series brought to you by our international arbitration practice lawyers here at Reed Smith. I'm Peter Roscher, Global Head of Reed Smith's International Arbitration Practice. I hope you enjoy the industry commentary, insights and anecdotes we share with you in the course of this series, wherever in the world you are. If you have any questions about any of the topics discussed, please do contact our speakers. And with that, let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of Arbitral Insights. I'm thrilled to be joined today by Shai Sharvit. Shai is a partner in Gorninsky & Co., a leading law firm in Israel. And Shai was really one of the founding members of Tel Aviv Arbitration Week. And this podcast is really to discuss with Shai the Tel Aviv Arbitration Week, the next edition of which will be coming up very shortly on the 13th until the 16th of March 2022. Shai has advised and represented many clients in international arbitrations under most institutional rules. He's also acted as foreign legal counsel in disputes before foreign courts, including the US federal and state courts. And Shai is a member of the court of the LCIA, a member of the UNCITRAL Experts Group on High-Tech Disputes, the Commission on Arbitration and ADR of the ICC, and the Task Force on Emergency Arbitrators at the ICC. He also serves as an ambassador of the ICC Commission on the Belt and Road Initiative. Shai, a warm welcome to you. And if I could just kick this off by asking as a first question, how did the Tel Aviv Arbitration Week get off the ground? I mean, what were the drivers for launching that event?
Thank you, Peter, first of all, for inviting me for your podcast. So it got off the ground actually quite by accident. There were four of us at the beginning, which are the original founders, and we all attended a conference in Israel, not at all related to arbitration. And after the conference, we went to have drinks. And we kind of planned to do drinks in the same conference next year. And we spoke a week later to the organizers and we told them, okay, next year we want to organize an arbitration dinner or arbitration drinks after the conference. And they told us, okay, but we decided to skip next year and not do a conference at all. So we said, okay, can we take your date? And they said, okay. And that was the first time that we actually decided to do Tel Aviv arbitration. Then it was day, and it became what it became. So it was actually quite by incident and by the fact that there were, few arbitration practitioners gathered in Tel Aviv to have drinks. And that's how it happened.
Okay, well, as accidents go, that's a very happy accident. Having had the fortune of coming out for the very first, the inaugural edition and the subsequent ones, and of course with Reed Smith being a sponsor since the very beginning, I mean, it's been fantastic to see the way that it's evolved, Shai. I mean, what have been some of the principal challenges?
So I think the challenges can be divided into three. The first challenge is, of course, getting people to know you. International arbitration, when we began in 2019, was on the rise in Israel, and it still is on the rise. But still, the amount of people who are familiar with international arbitration, who were willing to take a couple of days off from their busy schedules to hear about, cutting-edge discussions in international arbitration was not many. It was actually more than we expected, to our surprise. I still remember David Goldberg's words in the first inaugural conference where he said we were a victim of our own success because there was no sitting room left in the conference. But I think that the first challenge was actually, to spread the word. The second challenge is to get speakers. There are a lot of international arbitration conferences, as you very well know, Peter, and to get people to commit and to actually come to Israel and speak at one of those conferences is something that was a challenge for us. Luckily for us, Israel is a big attraction and it's a wonderful country. So that surely assisted. And so we were able indeed to bring very good speakers, such as yourself, for example, to speak at Tel Aviv Arbitration Day. But the third challenge, and that would go also to our next point, was that Israel is still partially controversial on different countries and on different jurisdictions. So to get people to understand that we are not addressing anything political on those days, and this is just purely professional arbitration conference, was something that people had to get over and understand. And that was actually, once we passed that, then we knew that we will have a great conference.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's certainly been something that I have, directly witnessed when I've been there. I mean, it really is a professional event, which is as informative, with the academic side, with some of the speakers, as the, social networking side. And my goodness, you do that very well, very well indeed. Just in terms of the speakers and the way that that's evolved, I mean, perhaps you could just share with us, some of your speakers at the conference coming up in March, and then perhaps some of your keynote speakers from previous conferences.
So I think that we have a really stellar lineup this year, which includes, and I'll just, name a few, but the names are just, in my eyes, unbelievable. So we have three keynotes over the week. We have Lord David Wilson, QC, who's a minister at the Ministry of Justice in England. We have Claudia Solomon, who needs no introduction as the president of the court of the ICC. And we have Gary Bourne, who will give the third keynote address. In addition to the keynotes, we really have amazing names, including Audley Shepard, including David Rivkin. So there are a lot of people coming over. We have really a stellar lineup.
One of my Paris partners, Anna Atala, will be speaking on the conference about MENA arbitration. And I know that she's very much looking forward to that. And of course, it will be Audley who will be moderating that. So looking forward to that. What I had noticed as well, and this was from the very first one, is just the geographical spread of people who were attending the conference.
Yeah, I think, it was really a surprise for us because, when we thought about doing an arbitration conference in Israel, we thought, okay, we have the main jurisdictions, the main arbitral jurisdictions. We will have Paris, we will have London, we will have Zurich, we will have New York, but we really didn't expect more. And we continue to see every year that actually the delegates are coming from more and more jurisdictions. So the first year, I think we had people coming over from 10 or 12 different jurisdictions. And this year, we have people coming from Nigeria, from China, Hong Kong, the US, Mexico, places you would not normally expect to see at a conference, at an arbitration conference in Israel. It makes us very happy. It means that we're doing something right. If people have heard of us in so many jurisdictions and are willing to come and listen to the conference. And, we hope it will grow and we will have a bigger and bigger reach every year.
Okay, well, it's certainly grown significantly since the first conference, Shai. In terms of the way that you sort of organise the event, I mean, there's the LCIA conference. I think certainly for the last couple of years that has always been, I think, on the second day. And on the first day, there is, of course, the cocktail event on the Sunday evening, which is fabulously done. Could you tell us a little bit more about the programming?
This year, there will be 5 or 6 different side events throughout the week. This year, the LCAA will open the events on Sunday around noontime. Then the Ministry of Justice are holding their event, which is usually, in my eyes at least, the most informative and most interesting, because they give you kind of the insights of how the government of Israel perceives the different developments in international arbitration. This year, they will focus on the Abraham Accords, which are naturally a big thing in Israel. And we kind of give information about the inside ropes of how the negotiation went about, and how the bilateral investment treaty, for example, between Israel and the UAE was drafted. So that is really interesting. Then we will start the main event on Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, which will go on until the end of Monday. Tuesday, we will have probably a breakfast for the Anglo-Russian Law Association, then an ICC event, then probably a YAF event. And the evening of Tuesday, we will have the Young Practitioners event. And on Wednesday, we have Chartered Institute of Arbitrators seminar, which will hold their first ever seminar in Israel, which is also something really interesting to look forward to. That's the general professional program. But as you, Peter, are well aware, we also have a lot of social events and gatherings and actually parties that we are holding. So it's going to be massive this year.
No, that's great. Any surprises over the years? Any stories you want to share?
We had several surprises, but I think that the fact that we were unable to follow through with the event on 2021, mainly because of COVID, was a bit of surprise for us. But I think that the fact that we were still able to do a conference at 2020 was the biggest surprise. I don't know if you remember, but
I do.
it was, end of February, early March, uh, and everybody globally were thinking, okay, so it's COVID, and during the week of the conference, it actually became very serious. And I remember a month before the conference, I was in Paris for a hearing, and they were broadcasting on the news that the first 5 cases were found in France. And we thought, it's nothing. It will go away. And then the following month, we had to do Tel Aviv Arbitration Day. And it was a 4-day event. And during the fourth and last day, we were sitting at the last event, which was the Young Practitioner event. And I remember sitting and then getting a message on my mobile that said that all people that came from France, Switzerland, Germany, Spain had to go through mandatory quarantine. So midway through the conference, I had to inform all my guests from those countries that they need to book a flight to get out of the country now, or else they will have to stay in their hotel room for 10 days. So it was really, surreal in that sense that we had to do it midway through the conference. But luckily for us, we just, escaped the first really hard lockdown by really an inch. And we were, I think, the last international arbitration conference to take place in person before COVID.
You were, and I remember very well because I sort of had the travel plans to come out, and then there was a slight hesitation, but not too much, because as you say, it was all quite surreal. And it was during the course of those 4 days that things suddenly became much more serious. We went into lockdown in France. I mean, I think it was pretty much immediate after I got back from that conference. So no, all very strange. What would you say makes the Tel Aviv Arbitration Week different from other arbitration weeks around the world?
I think there are 2 main differences in that sense. It's the fact that it's much less formal than, everything else around the world. I remember after the first conference, someone came to me because we went to drinks, and they came to me and asked me if there's a dress code. The cocktail bar, we went drinking. And I told him, yes, there is a dress code. You have to wear pants. So that was actually, kind of symbolizes how we perceive the conference. We don't perceive it, as a tied down, very formal issue. We try to be very light and try to be very informal. And I think that is one of the main attractions because, it's sometimes difficult for people to sit through a conference where everybody are very serious and are very formal. And we try to do the opposite. So that is, I think, one of the main issues. But I think that the main feature and the things that sets us apart from everyone is actually Tel Aviv. And you had the pleasure of enjoying Tel Aviv, but it is indeed one of the, in my eyes, best cities in the world. It's literally alive 24/7. There's a beach, which is amazing. So people really love Israel and really love Tel Aviv. So they come here to enjoy not only the professional intrigue, but also the beach immediately after. So it has the best combination that you can think of in that sense.
That's fantastic. There certainly is a magic about it. I haven't managed to make it to the beach yet, but perhaps 2022 it will happen.
So this year, and you and I haven't spoken about that, but this year's venue is literally located on the ocean. So you can actually see the water from the main hall. So it's going to be really out of this world.
Fantastic. Well, I look very much forward to that. And what about plans sort of 2023 and beyond?
Bigger and better or retirement? It will depend on how this year, conference will go. No, I'm just kidding. But, we kind of founded the conference as a way to spread the international arbitration world in Israel. And although we have come a long way, and I think that international arbitration has now become, I wouldn't say a household concept, but, a very familiar concept in Israel, it is still not used enough. And lawyers in Israel are still not familiar enough with international arbitration. So we will stop or retire once we feel that we spread the word enough. But I think it's an endless effort. You can do it more and more and more. So, for the future, bigger and better, always.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's a great note on which to end this podcast, Shai. Thank you very much indeed for sharing your thoughts and sort of insights on the Tel Aviv Arbitration Week with us. And I look forward to seeing you between the 13th and the 16th of March this year.
Thank you very much, Peter. And thank you again for inviting me.
It's our pleasure. Thank you.
Arbitral Insights is a Reed Smith production. Our producer is Ali McCardle. For more information about Reed Smith's global international arbitration practice, email arbitralinsights@reedsmith.com. To learn about the Reed Smith Arbitration Pricing Calculator, a first-of-its-kind mobile app that forecasts the costs of arbitration around the world, search Arbitration Pricing Calculator on reedsmith.com or download for free through the Apple and Google Play app stores. You can find our podcast on Spotify, Apple, Google Play, Stitcher, reedsmith.com, and our social media accounts at Reedsmith LLP on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. This podcast is provided for educational purposes. It does not constitute legal advice and is not intended to establish an attorney-client relationship, nor is it intended to suggest or establish standards of care applicable to particular lawyers in any given situation. Prior results do not guarantee a similar outcome. Any views, opinions, or comments made by any external guest speaker are not to be attributed to Reed Smith LLP or its individual lawyers. All rights reserved.